It is my great pleasure to welcome the City of Rochester Mayor Thomas S. Richards to our podium today. Mr. Richards was sworn in as mayor on April 11, 2011, following a special election to determine who would succeed former Mayor Robert Duffy, who had been elected lieutenant governor. Mayor Richards had previously served in the Duffy administration for more than 4 years as corporation counsel and 2 months as deputy mayor. Before entering public service, Tom was the chairman, president, and CEO of RGS Energy Group, the parent company of Rochester Gas and Electric, from 1998 through 2002. He volunteered as the founding chairman of the Greater Rochester Enterprise, a public-private partnership dedicated to economic development in the Rochester region. In conjunction with many of his private and public roles, the mayor has been involved in numerous charitable and community organizations. He served on the board of the Rochester Institute of Technology, the Cornell Law School Advisory Council, the University of Rochester, the University of Rochester Medical Center, the Center for Governmental Research, Rochester Enterprise, Rundell Library Foundation, the Greater Rochester Health Foundation, Volunteer Legal Services Program, and the George Eastman House, among others. Mayor Richards is a graduate of Bucknell University and Cornell University Law School. He served for 4 years in the United States Navy, including a year as a swift boat officer in Vietnam. Tom and his wife Betty live in Rochester and have 2 adult sons. Please join me in welcoming the City of Rochester Mayor Thomas S. Richards.
Thank you, Mr. President. It makes me feel old, actually. And the reason it makes me feel old is I am, actually. So it isn't really a feeling. And part of what makes me feel old is Bob Smith must be over here somewhere. He and I worked together at RG&E there he is, over there, a long time ago. And I didn't realize that. Push this up a little bit. It's good to be here. It's an honor for me to have this opportunity to speak to you today. You know, and I look out here in the audience and I see people who have made sacrifices to get here, both in the audience and who are graduating. And so it's an important day for you, and it's nice for me to be able to share it. You know, I can imagine what's going on through the minds of the people who are going to graduate here today. You're thinking, I did it, I finally did it. And if this guy would just be quiet and sit down, I can get a hold of my degree and be done with it. Not yet, not quite yet, but I'll keep it in mind. The college provided me with a profile of this class, and the graduates are, as you've seen already from the people who spoke, a remarkably diverse group. Your undergraduates, your graduates, your traditional and non-traditional degrees, residential, commuting students, a wide range of ages, many employed, some of you with families of your own, and all the attendant responsibilities that go with that. What you have in common is that you've decided somewhere along the course of your lives that you need to make an investment in your education, an investment of time, treasure, and intellectual effort. I suspect it wasn't easy. It is not supposed to be easy. Education is one of those investments that is strongly personal. After all, it's you who are being educated. But for a few external trappings, some of which we're going to deal with here today, the results of your education are largely within you. They're largely within you. While simply claiming the degree can help in some circumstances, it is supposed to represent something about you, about who you are, what you can do. At its best, beyond these specific skills and knowledge that you have acquired, it equips you to think about and understand the community of which you are a part. It equips you to be a positively contributing citizen in that community. And wherever you go from here, I can assure you that your community needs people like that. All of you decided, as I said, somewhere along the line to make an investment in your education, an investment of time, treasure, and intellectual effort, an investment that is personal to you. But you chose to do it at a place, Roberts Wesleyan College, that does not intend to let your education rest there. It is expected that you commit time, treasure, and intellectual effort, but it is also expected that you make a commitment of spirit. You chose, as reflected in the college's mission and foundational assumptions, a community of learners committed to historic Christianity that seeks to prepare thoughtful, spiritually mature, service-oriented people who can help transform society. This presumes a world that reflects the mind and purpose of our Creator. This presumes a community that exists in a context that is greater than your personal achievements, including the education that you're recognized for today. Your education is to equip you to be servant leaders in the context much greater than your personal achievements. And it is in that way that you are expected to transform society. Now, this can all seem kind of unreasonable. You know, it's a burden to place on you and on most of us as we go about our daily lives. Will you really be the person who discovers some cure for an awful disease? Will you really be the person who devotes your whole life to bringing peace and tranquility in a place far away where people can't do it for themselves? Maybe, but most of us will not. And as wonderful as that is and would be, if you choose it, it's really not the message that I bring today. It's not the expectation that I take from the education you have obtained and from the mission and assumptions of the college from which you obtained it. My message, my expectation, is that you will use your education to help transform society through your servant leadership as a positively contributing citizen of the community that you will return to, wherever and whatever that might choose to be. And that you will do it in as many ways, large and small, as there are of you here today. And I mean this to be a burden placed on you, but a burden you cannot escape by claiming it's unreasonable. There's no denying that possibility, and there's no denying this responsibility as a result of your Roberts Wesleyan education. I do not know the way you will meet this expectation, and it's likely you do not as well. You may not know it, in fact, until long after you've done so. It's not the expectation that you know the way today, only that you're educated to accept the responsibility, to recognize the opportunity, and to respond with servant leadership to it. I'd like to illustrate what I'm talking about here from my experience as the mayor of the city of Rochester. As many of you know, Rochester is a mid-sized city of about 210,000 people, and that over the last 30 years or so, with the flight to suburbs and the relatively static population in our community, it has declined from what was once over 300,000 people. We're a city that is unusually rich in cultural opportunities, good places to live, and is surrounded by successful colleges and universities, one of which we're in here today, and some of which are renowned for their research and for their health care. We are fortunate people in many respects. However, amid this good fortune, we are bedeviled by a high concentration of poverty and a poorly performing public school system. Many of you have had firsthand experience, and I saw some of this in the information that was given to you, or given to me. You spent many hours in the city and in the city schools through service learning projects, internships, social ministries, student clubs, and many other ways. And so you know what I talk about when I speak about our city. And this is all, of course, part of the mission that is Roberts Wesleyan. Now, the concentration of poverty and the poorly performing public school system are aspects of public life or urban life that are not unique to our city, but they are intense in our city. These are complicated issues with many causes, explanations, theories, proposed cures, and considerable dispute about all of it. They present themselves not only in terms of poverty, but in terms of race, social standards, crime, and violence. I do not intend to, or claim for that matter to be able to, resolve all of this. But I would like to point out two phenomena that to me have shaped the circumstance in which our community finds itself today. My approach here is deliberately simplistic from my own personal experience. And I'm saying this because I realize I'm surrounded by the faculty here, and I can't sustain this as an academic exercise. But I do have some experience, and it's from that I've drawn these conclusions. Urban poverty is not new. It's been with us since the founding of our country. However, while not consistently true throughout our history, part of the ethos of our country has been, at least in the 20th century, and that urban areas are places to go that present the opportunity to rise out of poverty, to improve your lot in life, to improve that of your family, and particularly of your children. These opportunities presented themselves in many ways over the history, but in the 20th century they included two paths that I'd like to emphasize. The first was the availability of industrial employment. For various reasons, the factories were in the urban areas or in areas that became urban. They provided jobs for people with a willingness to work, but with limited skills. And it was far from easy work, particularly in the latter half of the 20th century. It could provide a decent living, and it was sufficient to provide stable families, which created stable neighborhoods, and it provided a base from which the children could acquire education and skills, and it improved their chances in life. This led directly to the second phenomenon, broadly available, quality, urban public education. Now, it would be easy to overstate the historical quality of urban education, but there's no doubt that it provided an opportunity for many to rise out of poverty. And just as with industrial employment, it was a reason to move to urban areas. These two paths, probably I think the two principal paths to rise out of urban poverty. People came to urban areas to follow those paths, and while everyone was not successful, there was enough success to bring truth to the American ethos of opportunity. Today, one, the industrial job is greatly diminished, and in some locations, gone. The other, broadly available, quality urban education is failing. Without these pathways out, many people in urban poverty find themselves trapped for multiple generations, and the poverty becomes even more concentrated. Now, I understand that this is too simplistic an explanation for concentrated urban poverty and the many people in it. Nonetheless, the lack of employment opportunities for people with limited skills and the concentrated poverty are real. I understand that urban schools, particularly the Rochester City schools that I have experience with, are filled with hardworking people, students and teachers, who succeed despite the burdens. Nonetheless, the overall performance is not good. The two phenomena that I have identified are surely related. As the opportunities for unskilled employment diminished, it had an impact on the stability of families, that had an impact on the neighborhood, and that had an impact on the schools. The changes in our economy that have caused the loss of these opportunities are many, and largely beyond the capacity of urban America to deal with. We do not know, what we do know is that these very changes in the employment pattern have placed a premium on education and skills at the very time that the urban education system is failing. So it's on that second phenomenon that I want to focus for a moment, urban public education. And I'd like to use it as an explanation or as an illustration here of what I mean by the servant leadership that's expected of you and expected of all of us. One of the pleasures of being mayor, and there are some, believe it or not, is to go into the elementary school classrooms in our city, or to have those classes visit City Hall. The children are enthusiastic, they're full of wonder, they're just like children everywhere. Yet as I look into those enthusiastic faces that are filled with wonder, I know that the statistics tell me that less than half of them will make it through high school. How could this have come to be? How could this be failing so badly? And how did we fail to see the changed circumstances that these children find themselves in? Despite the considerable sums of money, why does the urban school bureaucracy struggle to respond to the needs of these kids? The answers to these questions are hotly debated. In an environment that is often dominated, quite frankly, by adult egos and the search for blame that can absolve responsibility. Even with good intentions, they would be difficult questions to answer. Two of the most common explanations are that poor kids are hard to educate and their parents are inadequate to provide the support that's necessary to do well in school. There's truth in both of those things. But they cannot absolve us of the responsibility to educate these children. They may be explanations, but they cannot be excuses. So often they are part of the circular conversation that we have on this subject. The children are poor, their parents are inadequate, so the blame lies elsewhere. Round and round the conversation goes, and the results are the same. Generations of children are poorly educated, and they face a society that has limited places for them. I do not mean to attribute just to some particular group or even some institution. For instance, surely the question is beyond the school system itself. However, I cannot help but believe that somewhere along the path of these changes that created the modern American urban school system, there were opportunities for servant leadership, and that more than a few of them were missed. Be that as it may, the situation that is presented to us today is replete with such opportunities. These opportunities need not be a new curriculum that's supposed to work magic or a new building filled with the latest technology. They can be the hard day-to-day work of the well-prepared servant leader. For some of you, that opportunity will be direct, as you will work in schools, as teachers, guidance counselors, social workers, or administrators. Others may follow in the same path in schools that are not like the ones that I've discussed. You may work in healthcare or a myriad of other environments that are apart from the urban experience. I intend this only to be an example. There are many other opportunities for servant leadership, and you may find that opportunity in some other place, in some other way. It may be your profession, it may be your personal life, or it may be both. My message, my expectation, is that you will use your education to find that opportunity, and you will seize it. However, it may seem from time to time that you're being recognized today for being fortunate, and you are. You're among the fortunate in our society. You've achieved something that most people do not, and some of you something that's quite rare, actually. And you've done so in this place, Robert Wesleyan College, that intends this good fortune to go beyond its personal impact. You are expected to be a servant leader who sees his or her work occurring in a world that reflects the mind and purpose of the Creator. Work that may be glamorous or plain, revolutionary or routine, broad in scope or individually focused, a career or a lifestyle. But always a positively contributing citizen in the community that exists in the context that's greater than your personal accomplishments. Always a servant leader in a world that reflects the mind and purpose of the Creator. Congratulations on your accomplishments that will be recognized today, on your good fortune, and on the servant leadership that you will bring to your community. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. This guy will sit down and be quiet, and you can get your hands on that degree. Thank you for the opportunity.